Hi, I want to go over my experience with training and shooting with other people and how that might affect the outcome of the session. When it comes to shooting with other people, I think there's a couple of factors that play at hand that can really affect the experience. The ones I can think of are the amount of people involved, the level of skill a individual or group of people have, the level of seriousness they might have, the tactical versus practical lens of how they go about the session, and the lastly being space. I have found with the amount of people, it can definitely affect the efficiency of the entire experience. The more people you add, the less time you're having to shoot and the more time you have to wait. Typically, I find that the most efficient sessions with people are going to be around 2 extra to 3 or 4 extra people. Once you get into the high range of 5 to 6 other people, it just becomes less efficient. The level of experience that the other individuals might have can play a huge part in how the entire session can come out to be. I have found that when shooting with lower level experienced folks that are just getting into firearms or getting into training, I have found that it has transformed that experience from a opportunity for me to get better into teaching them, which isn't necessarily bad. I just find that for myself, for productive training, I have to be more hyper focused on myself and what's going on whenever I'm shooting. Seriousness is another one. The seriousness I'm talking about isn't really the self-defense, Second Amendment, larger concepts such as that, or being such a buzzkill that the shooting session isn't fun. I'm more talking about the baseline seriousness of wanting to get better at shooting. I believe there's a level of seriousness you need to have to at least take an account of what is going on with your body whenever you're shooting, which requires focus and a little bit of discipline. Tactical versus practical is about whether or not you look at the experience through a tactical lens or a practical lens. Tactical training typically focuses on competitive skills such as covering concealment, CQB, and other drills or scenario-based drills, compared to practical shooting, which focuses more on hard skills such as grip, vision, focus, movement, etc., something you'd see in a competition style. I personally lean heavily more towards practical shooting and tend to avoid tactical shooting. The last factor I mentioned is space. That plays a really big part, as the less space you have, the less people and things you can do. I will go over the types of shooting sessions I've had or have observed and go from least to most favorite. To give context, I have the most fun doing high performance shooting compared to anything else. I seek out experiences that allow me to achieve that goal, and I avoid other experiences that will waste my time and money. Starting off with my least favorite type of shooting session I've had is what I would call bullshit shooting. That is what I would describe as mag dumping, plinking, and just bullshitting, chatting along while you shoot guns. This is one of the more casual and purposeless types of just shooting guns. This type of experience tends to be not very productive for any type of skill building, other than maybe in the very, very early stages of shooting by just getting comfortable with firearms. But after that part, it's not, all it is for entertainment. I tend to avoid these experiences as much as possible. The next one I have never truly experienced, but I've observed it a good amount of times online, which is tactical shooting. Whenever I do view people doing tactical shooting, it typically, for me, I see a lower level of shooting skill. It is what I see as lower skilled shooting. They put the shooting skills on the sideline and focus more on the tactics, which I understand that's the point. However, if the shooting skill is so low, like the shooting requirements, then in my eyes, I just see it as like, why shoot at all? You could just do it dry and there's no point. There's no difference. The shooting does not tell you anything. It's more about the tactic than the shooting. Even if the training does require a higher level of shooting proficiency, such as CQB, at that point the type of training I would be doing is more on the niche side and is something that I don't find very applicable for myself. It doesn't really help that there's a lot of misinformation relating to tactics and what's right and what's wrong. Because of all these factors, I typically avoid these types of shooting sessions as well. The next type of shooting experience I've had is what I would describe as drill shooting. The best way to put this, and I was guilty of this when I was younger, is shooting drills for the sake of shooting drills. What I mean by that is essentially doing the same exact drill over and over again and only chasing the speed and accuracy on that specific drill. I do believe that shooting drills does have a place early on in shooting when it comes to being used as a metric for a shooting skill. However, the shooting of the drills only focuses on a specific procedure and set of motions that you can memorize, rather than a different set of skills every time requiring a on-demand performance. Definitely a step up from the last two when it comes to productivity. However, I still avoid this type of shooting as much as possible. The other shooting experience I've had, most common, and I do prefer this over the last three, is shooting with folks at a lower level. Like, what I mean by a lower level is a way lower level, as they're just getting into firearms. I do enjoy this more than the others because I am actively helping another person become a proficient shooter, and I encourage others to help their friends and family with getting better at shooting. However, for me, I have found that this experience tends to shift the focus from personal development into focusing on the newer shooter. I do believe that teaching other people how to shoot helps with solidifying and better understanding the concepts that you're teaching. As I mentioned earlier, the type of training that I've found to be the most productive is whenever you are hyper-focused on the thing you're doing. I cannot be hyper-focused on myself when I'm focusing on helping someone else get better. When it comes to this type of experience with other folks, I do try to space it out appropriately. That way I'm able to still teach my friends, my family how to shoot, while being able to continue to grow myself in my shooting journey. For the final tier of my favorite type of way of shooting with other folks, the peak of productive training with people would be shooting with folks that are slightly lower, on par, or higher skilled than yourself. I have found that this is the most prime productive training I have ever had. There's something about shooting with someone that's around your skill set or higher and being able to try to compete with them. These people have the awareness of the basic foundational skills of shooting. You are able to focus on yourself, and it's perfect for bouncing off ideas and concepts with each other. And you can compare and contrast the different skill sets and learn a lot. That type of experience I have found to be the most fun and the most productive way of shooting with other folks. You got to keep the numbers small. You can probably push it to 5 other people, but then it becomes less efficient when it comes to time-wise. And you have to get 5 minds that are going to be the same level of seriousness, which can be a little bit difficult. I think a lot of people underestimate how much an effect shooting with other people can have on your personal growth. From my experience, it is very important to pick the right people for the right type of experience you're looking for. I wanted to go over this subject because I don't really find that many people talking about it with working and shooting with other people, and I thought it'd be interesting to share my experience to see if anyone might find it useful.